In this video I'm gonna show you how you can make this decomposition animation in Blender. You don't need any add-ons or any extensions, you can do this just in a few minutes, and it's pretty cool and easy way how you can animate complex models. So let me show you. So for this demo I'm gonna use this watch that I made last year, and as you can see here the watch is made out of a lot of parts that we can animate. So we have the glass, we have the dial, we have the bezel, we have the subdials, we have a lot of parts that we can animate. And so let's say I want all these parts to move on this direction. So all the parts are moving on the z-axis. But I want the parts to have offset from each other, so there is a space between all objects. And we can easily do this by using drivers. So first we need an object that we're gonna move on the z-axis. So I'm gonna add a cube, I'm gonna scale it down, and I'm gonna move it further from the watch. And now because we will move this object up and down on the z-axis, we need the z location of this object to be on 0. You can check this by pressing N, and you can see that the location on the z-axis is on 0. Now if you have the cube somewhere else, and you see that the z location is not set on 0, but you don't want to move the object, what you can do is that you can apply the location with Ctrl A and applying the location, which will basically move the origin to the world center, which basically determines the location of the object. Now before we actually begin with animating, that the z location of all these objects are set to 0. Or you can use the alternative option, which is using the delta transform, which is basically a way how you can transform the object's location, rotation and scale without actually affecting the object's data. So it basically works like a modifier. So it works a little bit like a modifier. So I'm gonna select the glass, I'm gonna go to the object properties, and here I can open the delta transform. Now what I want is to animate the object on the z-axis. As you can see here we have the z-axis, so I'm going to right click and I'm gonna click on add driver. So now we have this temporary window that is basically showing the driver properties. Now if this window disappears or you accidentally click off, you can access it by right clicking on the z and clicking on edit driver. So now let's set the driver. We want to use this scripted expression, and here is basically the expression that we are going to use. As you can see we have this variable and we have the numbers, which means that we need to determine what the variable is. Now since we want to use the z location of the cube, we will keep the transform channel and we will use the z location. And then we need to select the object that we are going to use, which in this case is our cube. Now if I move this cube on the z location, you can see that the movement of this glass is exactly the same, because if I go to the driver, you can see that we are using the z location of the cube plus 0, which means that the offset is 0. So if I set this to 0.1, you can see that now we have the offset on the z-axis, which is 0.01 meters. The glass is still moving with the cube, but we have this extra offset. However, because we have a lot of parts here, we want each part to move in a different speed. So instead of adding a value, we're gonna multiply it. So if I set the offset to 2, you can see that the z location of the glass is the location of the cube multiplied by 2, which basically means that the glass will travel twice the distance of the cube. Now before I continue with the video, I would like to introduce you to the sponsor of this video, MonsterONE, a subscription service that gives users access to their vast library of digital assets that you can use both for personal or commercial purposes. Here you can download over 500,000 digital assets, including 3D models, Shopify themes, HTML and CMS templates, presentation templates, videos, music, graphic assets, WordPress themes and more. You will also get unlimited downloads and hundreds of new products every single week. So if you are, for example, a business owner, you can build your own online store with these assets by yourself, fast and cheaper. But if you are a 3D artist, marketer, designer or a web developer, you will certainly find these assets useful as well. And to make this deal even sweeter for you, they assign me a special discount code for all available plans. So if you use the code Graffinity in the checkout, you will save 10% from your purchase. MonsterONE, the first link in the description, check it out. And now let's go back to the video. Now because we are dealing with layers, I basically want this glass to be above all other objects, which also means that the glass will have the highest offset. So now we need to repeat this process with all other parts. Luckily for us this is pretty easy, because we can copy the driver and we can just paste it on another object. So I'm gonna move this cube by 0.5 meters on the z-axis, and now I want to animate this bezel. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the glass, I'm gonna copy the driver, I'm gonna select the bezel, and I'm gonna paste the driver on the z-axis. Now the bezel is on the exact same position as the glass, because we are using the same offset as with the glass. So if I want the bezel to be below the glass, I'm gonna use a lower offset than the glass. So I'm gonna use 1.95. And as you can see here, the bezel is below the glass because the Z location is multiplied by lower offset. Now just repeat the process for all parts. So I'm gonna select this part, I'm gonna paste the driver, and this time I'm gonna use 1.91. Now I'm gonna select the ring. Again, let's paste the driver, and let's put the offset to 1.85. So now all these objects has their own drivers, and now if I move this cube up, you can see that the effect is working pretty well, because each object has its own driver, but every object is also using a different offset, which will basically create the separation effect. By the way, you can use the same driver to move this crown on the x-axis. By the way, you can use the same driver to move this crown on the x direction, just by changing the axis. So instead of moving this crown on the z-axis, I'm gonna add the driver to the x location, and as you can see, everything is working just fine. That's all from me for this tutorial. I hope you learned how to make this simple animation, and if you did, like and subscribe. Also check out my shade guard library, which is a pack with procedural materials for Blender that you can easily just drag and drop, make different variations, or make animated materials and effects. If you have a video suggestion, write it in the comments. Also check out this tutorial, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. See ya.